I've made my living on the water for over 20 years.
For 14 years.
For over 23 years.
I've worn a bunch of different clothing brands over the years.
Some companies big.
And some companies small.
All of them said they were making clothing for us.
But none of them knew us.
None of them were us.
Except for one.
Except for one.
Except one.
AFCO.
AFCO.
AFCO. AFCO.
Fishing isn't part of us. It is us.
Hey everybody, AJ McWhorter here, your tournament director for the Hobie Bass Open Series, anchored by Power Pole. And it has been a minute since we've been able to talk to you guys, but it is just getting down to the wire for our Tournament of Champions on Lake Eufaula, Alabama. Just like this Friday and Saturday, our anglers are going to be working their way to Alabama to start practicing. Saturday is the official start of our practice period for that event. The lake has been completely off limits since October 1st. And, you know, the cool thing about this series is not only do we have this 50 angler championship, but everybody in our Angler of the Year presented by Far Wide race that's still in the hunt is going to be competing against each other on this body of water for 3 days. For those of you that are just watching and aren't familiar with that, I'm going to kind of remind you about what these anglers are fishing for. We have got a first place prize of a Hobie Pro Angler 14 360 in a custom orange and black, what we like to call BOS camo, that is going to be completely rigged out from some of our amazing sponsors. There's going to be a Power Pole micro anchor on there, a Lowrance. We're going to have some Railblazer accessories, going to have a marine mat kit on there. That angler's going to go home with a Flambeau Tough crate and some other unique prizes from our sponsors. And they're going to get $5,000 and they're going to qualify for Hobie Fishing World. So it is an awesome prize for the angler that did it all year, but did it against all of the competitors on this final event of the season. Second place, you've got a $3,000 prize. You've got a nice big Ingle cooler, a Flambeau crate, and some other nice prizes, and a world's qualification. In third place for the Far Wide Angler of the Year, you've got a $2,000 prize, Ingle cooler, Tacticam, Flambeau crate. You're going to get all the goods in those two places, including qualifying for the United States team for the Hobie Fishing Worlds. So there's a lot at stake. What we're doing tonight is we are going to bring in our top three in our Far Wide Angler of the Year race and let them talk about the season a little bit. We're going to kind of bring them in individually, and then we're going to have all three of them together and kind of revisit some of the season. Those of you guys that are watching, we appreciate you. I know that the World Series is going on tonight, and you know, it's a long game. Baseball's long, so just stick with us for the first couple innings, and we'll get this thing wrapped up before too long at all. But it's time. It's time to wrap up this season. It's been a long year. It's been an amazing year. We saw record growth thanks to all of you guys showing out all over the country. You've already seen our first 6 events for 2022. Before the TOC, we will announce the rest of our events for the 2022 season. So that'll take us through June, July, August, and September. At the TOC, we will announce where the 2022 TOC is going to be, and everything's locked up. We've got a great year planned for you guys next year, and I know that all the anglers fishing this season are going to be checking that out. Once you kind of get a taste of the Tournament of Champions, it's one of those things you want to go back to. Getting to compete against 49 other anglers on that stage is something special. This year, with all of our cash prizes, we're going to be cashing or awarding over $86,000 of prize money with a $35,000 first place prize. So it is for a lot of stakes. You guys have worked hard to get to that. We've built that pot up all year, and it is going to come down to the top 50 in this series duking it out for 3 days, no cut, your best 5 bass each day on Lake Eufaula, fall fishing. It's going to be challenging, and we can't wait to see what this group of anglers is going to do. So we're going to do another live next week. We're going to bring in some anglers that have been on the water, kind of a different group of folks. Obviously everybody's in our top 50. Some people qualified through their first 3 places at an event throughout the season. There was another 19 anglers that qualified through the Far Wide Angler of the Year points. You got Ryan Lambert, who qualified as an automatic qualifier from being last year's grand champion. And that's what makes up our 50. So we're going to bring in a few other anglers next week to give us kind of a report of the lake and what they expect as they head into the weekend. And pretty much from here on out, we're going to be feeding you guys some great information for this event, for next season. And we're just going to keep the hype train rolling. With that said, we're going to start with the angler that started out winning our largest event of all time. He beat 175 anglers to start the season on Lake Seminole, Bainbridge, Georgia. He put up 2 awesome days on the water and went home with over $9,600 between having the big bass and first place prize, which was the most that we had ever paid out in a single open event. Currently, he's sitting in 3rd place in our Far Wide Angler of the Year race, but he spent the first few months holding down that top spot. From Texas, Bryan Howe.
What's up?
What's up, Bryan? How you doing, bud?
Good. How are you?
Man, I'm doing good. I'm feeling good. I'm ready to kind of get through this last event, but I don't have any pressure on me. It's people like you that got a little bit of pressure, man. How you feeling about that coming into the last event?
More pressure than usual because I fished the previous 2 TOCs and then I was just fishing for trying to win and get a check or whatever. But now it's like, oh, I got something else to worry about that arguably could be more important.
It could be. And that's kind of the interesting extra dynamic about this. The way that we do the points in this event is a little bit different than our traditional opens. So all of our opens are, you get 100 for first, 99 for second, 98 for third. But in this event, it's a 2-point decrement. So you get 100 for first, 98 for second, 96 for third, 94. So there's a little bit more weight in this event. So your placement is going to matter, but you're also only competing against 50 folks. And for you in the Angler of the Year race, there's only really about 10 to 12 people that really have a run to or an opportunity to make a run for that first spot. And as you kind of look at the leaderboard, like, all right, I have to finish this many spots above this guy, this many spots above this guy. So you get to kind of play that out, and then you have to deal with that for 3 days of competition. So you'll get to kind of see how that all shakes out. What do you feel about a 3-day competition, man? I mean, no cut, everybody competing. There's going to be people practicing the whole time, and there's going to be fish sore mouth. But it's a big lake. There's a lot of fish. There's a lot of opportunities, but 3 days is something a little different for our sport. There's only a couple opportunities to fish for 3 days. Are you excited about that, or kind of curious about how it's going to play out?
I'm excited and nervous. I've only done one 3-day event, and that was, just a month ago at the KBF National Championship.
Mm-hmm.
And from that, I learned a little bit to hopefully help me go into this, because at that one I did, I kept losing fish and missing fish and all sorts of stuff breaking off. So I had really beat on my fish those first 2 days just to get 5 in the boat. And then by that 3rd day, my bite kind of petered out and I dropped down a bit. So I know that I'm going to have to fish clean at the TOC to have any shot, because if it's anything like that, I don't want to wear my stuff out too hard on those first 2 days. You got to really preserve them.
Right. Right. And, you've shown that you can, put 2 days together with us over the last few years. But this year, you've just had some special events with us, man. I mean, I think Seminole, really kind of captivated the audience of our sport. And, you and Joey Vanyo just went back and forth, man. And it was like, even though you guys weren't even around each other, it was like you were just trading licks all weekend. And, but you had the heavy hand, man. You ended up showing out after, 8 months later, 9 months later. Like, how does that feel? To know that you had such a tremendous, showing in that first event of the season and really kicked off our season in such a big way.
That was awesome. I mean, I still have people come up to me, at events like, "Oh, you're Bryan Howell." Like, "Oh, you won Seminole, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, exactly." People know me from winning that. Like, they don't know me from anything else that I've done pretty much. Like, "Oh, yeah, you won Seminole." Like, everybody knows about it.
Man, I think that says a lot about the way that people view these opens. With only being 9 or 10 of them in the course of the year, and then especially to start the season, man. There's so many new people that are coming out. We had 175 anglers. Everybody's like dreams of qualifying or getting good points are still at an all-time high. And Seminole's just a really unique fishery, and you showed out. But I think, like you said, like you've done other stuff in Texas in this series, and then you followed it up a few months later with a second place on Lake Dardanelle. I think Lake Dardanelle, kind of, I think it surprised some people about how it fished. I think a lot of people went in kind of expecting it to be a certain way, but you were able to kind of just battle both days and get that second place. How did that feel? Only a few months into the season.
I mean, I didn't think I could move up that much because at Dardanelle, like, it wasn't like Seminole where I just smashed them on day one. It was like, okay, well, I could potentially win. Like at Dardanelle, I was sitting, I don't know, in the 20s maybe. And I was like, okay, there's potential to get a check. I didn't think I'd be able to move up to second place. I think I was leading it for, the last 2 hours until Nick called up, at the last 15 minutes or whatever. So it was crazy.
Yeah, shout out to Nick Chabaria, man. Just went into that tournament. Very little pre-fishing on Friday, paddle kayak. Just an awesome showing for Nick. And it's folks like Nick too. I mean, Bryan, you're a guy that, you look at a schedule, you're like, I'm going to fish these 4, these 5, and you go out and you do it. You're one of those guys that, like, you might find you at lacrosse one weekend. You might find you, Eufaula one weekend. You travel, you chase these things. Not everybody gets to do that in the same way. So I think it's really cool when guys like Nick, and we've had a few other guys, Bryan down at Sam Rayburn and Travis up at Lake Champlain. Those guys aren't like some of your household names, if you will, in the series because they don't fish as many of them. But it shows that, like, those folks are just as competitive and have just as much of an opportunity to win one, even when somebody like yourself that's coming off of a big win is kind of chomping at their heels. And so I'm looking forward to seeing Nick down on Lake Eufaula and all of those automatic qualifiers. But as the season went on a little bit, you had another good showing on Sam Rayburn and I think Pickwick. I think you finished in the same place, 7th place in both of those events. Yeah. So you were, as the season progressed, you started chasing Ewing down because he went on a hot streak as the kind of the series went into different parts of the country that stretched out a little bit from where you were able to travel to. And, you kind of set yourself up at 294, kind of going into that swing of northern events. And then came and got so close to getting an extra point or two at Pickwick, but it just didn't happen. But you put yourself in a great spot, man. Essentially, you're going to have to finish probably, around 3 spots higher than Ewing. He set himself up really well, but we do something unique on our points. If you guys look at our points, we have decimal points available. It's kind of like a bonus structure. We've done this to kind of avoid some ties and, you actually accumulated enough bonuses that you got a whole extra point.
Yeah.
And so for those of you guys that aren't familiar, you essentially get 0.1 bonus for having the big bass of each day. And then you get a 0.3 bonus for having the biggest limit of each day. So there's equivalent of, of 0.4 of a point bonus at each day of each event. So that's why Bryan's Lake Seminole event was 100.7. His Lake Dardanelle event was 99.3. He's got a total of 294. And then, in second place, Drew Gregory's got 294.1 because he had that other, essentially Bryan had 0.7 of the points available at Seminole, but Drew had that extra 1/10 of a point for having the big bass one day. And that ends up being their tiebreaker. So that's kind of an interesting little shakeout of the points. So, Bryan, before we bring anybody else in here that you want to kind of say, we're going to ask you some more questions. But as you kind of look back at the season as a whole, any over encompassing thoughts, or are you just ready to wrap this thing up and swing for the fences here at Lake Eufaula?
Man, I'm ready to, I started the year, on top. I want to end the year on top. That's how it's going to be.
Well, you definitely are going to put yourself in an opportunity to do so. And we're all going to be following both the tournament race and the Far Wide Angler of the Year race. Bryan, stick with us. We're going to go to a quick break, and we're going to come back and talk to our current Far Wide Angler of the Year leader, Ewing Minor.
This is the Tacticam fisheye. What's different from the Tacticam fisheye and other Tacticams? Let's start with loop recording. Loop recording is a cool new feature to Tacticam fisheye that allows you to record continuously and only save what you want. What I mean by that is after that giant catch or exciting moment, simply push the button and it's going to mark the video and back save the information or the video that you actually want to keep. This new feature makes it really easy to go back through your videos and find the ones you're really looking for. Along with loop mode, there's also 2 other modes preset on your fisheye. The other is standard video mode, which is going to allow you to record and pause, just like a standard camera. Fisheye also comes with a time-lapse mode. Time-lapse mode is great for setting up over your boat or over the fire pit. When recording in time-lapse, the video that you're going to get is going to be a fast movie of the event that you filmed. So if you film for 3 hours, it's going to condense that down and play it back super fast, creating a really cool effect. When you order the Tacticam fisheye, you're also going to get the Tacticam head mount. The head mount comes with a universal adapter. The universal mount is going to allow you to mount your Tacticam fisheye to a variety of action camera mounts. The fisheye is also compatible with our Tacticam remote system. That's going to allow you to sync 5 fisheye cameras up to the remote so you can record all your angles with the simple push of one button. I think you're really going to enjoy the Tacticam fisheye, so check out the Tacticam fisheye and some of the other features at tacticam.com.
Ewing, man, what's up? Welcome to the show. How you doing tonight?
Doing pretty good. How about yourself?
Man, I'm doing good. So we're going to kind of recap your awesome season a little bit, man. I mean, you started out, we don't even get to talk about it because it's not in your top 3, but you started out in your very first national kayak event down on Lake Seminole when Drew and Bryan were duking it out, both finishing in the top 4. You were, I think, 11th in that event and, got your check, your first little taste. How did that feel kind of rolling up against 174 top kayak anglers in your first kind of, I don't know, you'd kayak fish tournaments before, but that's a big field and you kind of showed out, man. How'd that feel to kind of start your season on a high note?
Yeah, I mean, it felt really great. I had no clue that I would end up fishing this many. really it just started. I was fishing that, and someone said there's one on Watts Bar. And I said if I cashed a check that I'd fish Watts Bar, and now I'm here. I was planning on those being my only two.
Yeah, so Watts Bar, you go to school at Carson Newman University, which is in Eastern Tennessee. So you only had a short drive, about an hour or so to get down to Watts Bar for that event. But even a short drive for that event, was a little more challenging for those folks that have tried everything they could do to forget the weather that week. It was brutal. We had a February event on Watts Bar. I don't know who made the schedule, but they probably should have evaluated that. And it was as cold as Tennessee got for the entire year last year, the days leading up to the Watts Bar event. And the lake really was fishing about as bad as it could have. And we still had 90 something anglers roll in there from all over the country. And obviously there were some anglers that caught them. Ryan Lambert was able to get the win. Pretty close battle though with Ewing, who was able to get second place. He had one of the biggest limits of the tournament, and pretty much secured himself in the hunt for the Angler of the Year. And we had no idea what he was going to do the rest of the year, but an 11th place and a second place, if he finishes top 5 in any event the rest of the season, he's going to be putting himself in a position to be competitive with these guys. How did you feel after that Watts Bar event, Ewing? I mean, it had to be, kind of surreal to just kind of be like, I'm going to just go fish. And then you did, but you put yourself in a position to almost get the win, but then to get an awesome second place, another big check, and some really valuable points.
Well, it felt great to, finish that high. After day one, I was like over 20 inches behind first place. I didn't even think I had a shot, but I mean, I was kind of in shock by getting one of those big checks. That's what I wanted. And it's like, wow, if I could get another one of these, that'd be really nice. And actually used part of that money to, help pay for the kayak, as the comment says. And that, that kayak has been used quite a bit recently. So.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. As you got a taste of that big first check and saw where you kind of were in the points, you didn't wait too long to take advantage of getting that first place. Obviously after coming in second to Ryan Lambert, everybody has to hear about that. Mm-hmm. And I think he lets you hear about that even more than maybe some other folks had to. And I think it ended up being good for you because you took that to heart, went to Hartwell, and just had an awesome tournament on Hartwell, man. I mean, that was a May tournament. We had 140 so anglers out there. We were fishing with Vinny Ferreri's group, the Queen City Kayak Bass Fishing Club. It was a big time out there on Lake Hartwell, and you came out ahead of our second biggest field of the year. How did that feel to finally get your first win and another big check, and pretty much say, I'm here this year, and we're going to take this thing all the way?
I mean, that, I was honestly, I think the second place at Watts Bar, since I was so fresh into it, and I hadn't really gotten a taste of what it felt like to get one of those big checks and qualify. It was incredible to win, and I'd love to win another one, but it was, at that point I was like, okay, I can get, I could get used to this. And, I've just been really fortunate this season. There's incredible anglers I've seen, like at the, the KBF Nationals, seeing those lengths, like some of the guys that I'm competing against, that was incredible that they could put up some limits like that, and just being able to compete against these guys, it's pretty cool.
Oh yeah, and we'll talk about that here in just a little bit. But I mean, those totals that Guillermo and Cody were putting up, those guys, they might not be in the top three, but they're awfully close points wise to you guys. And I think they both like the little extra attention being on you guys, and they know, and you guys know that they can pack some absolute heat. And they're going to be putting some pressure on you guys. And I don't know that anybody in the country is riding more momentum than Guillermo right now. And that's a dude that when you have some momentum, it's you almost have to get out of his way because it's going to happen. So I'm sure he's anxious to get up there to the TOC and see what he can do, because he came on really strong to end the year. He's sitting in 4th in our Angler of the Year. He's only 1 point back from Drew and Bryan. So he's, he didn't make the top 3 for this, but he's going to be all up in the hunt. And he might not have a swamp full of bass to fish on Eufaula, but he'll probably definitely find some good ones. So you're right, man. You've got some incredible anglers that you're fishing against, not just in the TOC, but also in the Far Wide Angler of the Year race. Before you get to your next event that you have a point for, you actually finished really high up at Lake Champlain as well, going head to head with Iconelli and then the other guys that showed out. Drew got second in that event. Travis Von Neumann let everybody know that Smalley's ruled. You were chasing largemouth. Smalley's did rule that particular event. But you turned it around a month later on the Susquehanna River, and you let them know that Smalley's ruled there and put up a second place finish. So you showcased on the Tennessee River, a huge lake like Hartwell, and one of the most storied fisheries, smallmouth fishery rivers in our entire country. You did it any way possible, man. How did that feel to have such a good event on a river system? I mean, coming from Virginia's like river smallmouth mecca. And so I'm sure that you had a little extra, appreciation for being able to do it on a river too.
Yeah, well, you say Virginia is like river fishing smallmouth mecca, but I've never seen any lake or river that even compares to the Susky. It was just, I had so much fun that entire time, just catching just giant fish. I mean, they're not only are they long, they're also just built almost like I went to the St. Lawrence this summer, and they were built almost just like those fish. And it's not southern, but it's not as far north. You don't have the gobies and everything. But I mean, really, that was a fun week. I think a lot of people, they go there because it's just, everyone wants to go catch those smallmouth in that current, and they pull, they bite, and almost anything you want them to bite.
You hoping that event lands on schedule for 2022?
If I might be upset if it doesn't. There better be at least one river.
I feel like everybody's going to be upset if it doesn't. Everybody that's been, at least. If you haven't gone and you're like, oh, let's give us something else, maybe you should just try to go up there and get a taste of what that river can do. It's a special place. So Ewing, you've done an incredible job this season. Your total is 298.6. You are our current leader. Knowing that all you have to do to win $5,000 and the custom Hobie Pro Angler 14 360 completely rigged is just finish ahead of all these people that's names are already behind yours. How does that feel for you, man? What kind of pressure you feeling? What kind of confidence you got going into this thing? Where's your head at?
I mean, my goal is, as it would be for any other tournament, you go out there and you try to win. I've always told people, why would you shoot for a top 10? If you fall short of a top 10, then you're just top 20. You shoot for the win and you fall a little short, get second or third place. I think that mentality is really important. I know Bryan has it because I saw what he did the first event. But
Yeah, I agree with that point.
just always going for the win. That's a huge key. And I'm, as much as I'd like to try to play it safe, it's not there's no room to play it safe with all these other guys that can catch them so close to town.
Ewing, have you ever had a chance to fish, whether in a kayak or in your boat tournament? Have you ever had a chance to fish a 3-day tournament?
I've fished a couple 3-day events out of a bass boat, but I mean, it's usually out of a bass boat, it's top 12 fish on the 3rd day. And so first 2 days you swing for the fences, and if you make it to the 3rd day, you worry about it then. But it's really just going to be all about managing your fish and just not burning through them all, making sure you have enough fish that you found during practice. That's, with it being as tough as it is, I think a limited day will go a long ways.
Yeah, and kayak fishing, I feel like 3 days is different than boat because like you can't just go bounce all over the lake and everything in a kayak. I feel like 3 days in the boat, yeah, okay, you can have a spot over here, there, whatever, and just kind of bounce around. But the kayak, you're more limited.
Well, I'm sure everyone's heard throughout the year that Eufaula, I guess it's a spraying grass, and it's just every single tournament the weights have been down,
Yeah,
lengths have been down. So hopefully it turns around, but I mean, either way, someone's got to win it, whether it's with a small limited day or a big limited day. It's going to happen one way or the other.
That's right. You guys don't have to compete against what Eufaula was or what a different tournament was. You literally are just competing against 49 other anglers that are dealing with the same exact conditions that you all are dealing with. And that's kind of the interesting thing about the perspective of a tournament. So many times you go to a place and you think you have to catch 90 a day or 100 a day, but really you just have to catch more than the other people that are fishing the same event that you are. And just being better than everybody else is the goal. I think we'll dive in on our next live next week about what folks think the totals are going to be after they get on the water for a few days. But the reality is that it is going to be tough. Fall fishing is always a little tough. I mean, last year out of Knoxville, Tennessee, it was a little tough. Ouachita the year before was really tough. I think a late season fall championship presents a lot of challenges, and I really think that it's personally, I think that that's a great way to crown a champion is to have everybody competing in tough conditions and let kind of someone rise to the top of that. Ewing, anything else you want to say before we bring in our final guest?
I can't think of anything right now.
All right. Well, we'll kind of let you guys all talk for a little bit to wrap this thing up, but we're going to take another quick break if that's what Steve has lined up for us, and then we're going to come back with our second place in the Angler of the Year rankings, Drew Gregory. Welcome to the show, man.
What's going on, guys?
Drew is our reigning Angler of the Year. He was able to get it done in the final 3 events of our season last year, pretty much just knocking them out one by one. And then he overcame, pretty much a Jody Queen, Russ Snyder's, like everybody had them pegged for the top places, and they had pretty good leads going into that, and we're really just neck and neck all season. But I think that everybody that watched our first season of an Angler of the Year saw how that can play out if the people that are leading it don't perform in that final event. And I know that, with Russ being Russ and, Jody being the river angler that he has always been as well, I think a lot of people just kind of push them into that spot. But Drew had something to say about that, man. How does that feel to, be the reigning angler of the year, and, have such a great season last year, but then to also start out the year this year with a 4th place finish, 175 anglers on Seminole, man. You kind of rode that momentum right into the next year and let them know, like, hey, I'm not waiting to the end of the year this year. I'm gonna do it. How'd that feel for you, man?
Dude, I think it's like anybody out there who's a competitor. I mean, it's what you dream of. That's what you want, get out there and win. For anglers, I think the AOI is probably the most coveted because it really does show off consistency. So to be able to pull that off, and then again this year be in 2nd place heading in to the TOC, I mean, it's just what you dream of. For me, I may not win as many events as you guys probably notice. I won Dardanelle last year, but it was by tiebreaker. But I definitely have been able to be consistent. So definitely proud of that. And this year was incredible, man.
Yeah, I mean, you might say that you haven't won a lot, but man, you've got a lot of checks and trophies sitting there behind you. And like you said, you've been consistent. They don't all have that 1st place on them, but that big trophy on the desk in front of you is a 1st place in Angler of the Year last year. And I know you were working really hard this year to get to that. You started off the season hot. There was a few events that you didn't get to make just because of the region that they were in. You weren't able to get that same showing on Dardanelle that you did the previous year. But come Lake Champlain, you absolutely showed out. You found a really unique area, and you just really took care of that area and found the right fish through that and got a 2nd place. How was that event for you, Lake Champlain? Obviously it was our lowest attended event of the year, but it was made up for in quality of anglers that were there. It was a tough event on a unique fishery. What are your thoughts on Lake Champlain?
Man, that place was incredible. I am shocked. Shocked that more people weren't at that event. That's like, everyone's bucket list. It's world class. We all know that. By the way, sorry if I sound horrible. I'm sick, so bear with me, guys. Been fighting off something. It's not COVID, but fighting it off. But anyway, yeah, Champlain was incredible. I mean, I really hope it ends up on the schedule again. If not next year, maybe the year after, because that's where you guys definitely should be wanting to go. I mean, everybody out there listening, it was the most incredible fishery I've ever been to because you could do anything and everything, main lake, largemouth, smallmouth, rivers, creeks. It has it all. And the fish are willing to bite. You catch a lot of fish. That's why we saw, I didn't really have signal, but that's why we saw, Ike and Ewing going back and forth and had pretty good signal most places to submit fish. So you guys have got to go to Champlain. Even if it's not for the Hobie BOS, you got to get up there.
That's the one I regret not going to.
Yep.
I think a lot of people had a little bit of regret watching that one play out, especially the folks that are chasing points, realized that was one of their best opportunities, especially since almost 3/4 of the field are folks that didn't end up fishing 3 events with us. So they really didn't kind of play into the Angler of the Year race so much. But hopefully if everything pans out, we'll get to revisit that part of the country, if not next year, down the road. But definitely a place that we're always going to have in our crosshairs to land an event on was another one of your top finishes, Drew. You had a 3rd place finish on the Susquehanna River, finished right behind Ewing. Jody Queen went back to back in that event, and he won, and it was awesome, but it just felt so tight down the ranks. It felt like it was really anybody's opportunity to win that. It was like we're just 1 20-inch smallmouth away from the whole leaderboard changing. And we had, I think there was 51 or 52 18-inch smallmouth or larger were caught and submitted in that tournament. By all accounts, everybody that was there had an incredible time. What are your thoughts on that event and your 3rd place finish with that amazing film? Or amazing.
Yeah, I think the year before I was 4th there, so I was obviously had high expectations. It's a river event. People know me kind of a river guy. And so, I went there expecting to try to get, a check for sure. And on day one, I do remember, I actually did really well on day two. That's where I really made my big move. I can't remember where I was, like 11th or 17th, somewhere down there. But I do remember on day one, I wish I would have made my way up this bank that history, quote, that just, shows you should never rely on history. History told me that bank wasn't very good because I had never done well up this certain bank. And so I kind of stopped going that direction on day one. On day two, I decided to move up that bank and just started smashing huge fish. It was like a light switch. Like the weather got kind of funky and I just started catching them like crazy. And I wish I had done that on day one and I'd have been a little bit closer. But I called it once I saw Jody up there and about, I forget if he was third after day one. He was up there third, fourth, or fifth. I said, hey, man, I think Jody's probably going to pull this off. And, sure enough, he proved us right. And he's always right up there in a river event, pretty much any event, but especially up there.
Yeah, and Jody qualified for the Tournament of Champions, that event, and that meant that our first grand champion was in. Ryan Lambert was in. So essentially, both of our grand champions are in. We're going to have another grand champion this year. We've got a few national champions. We'll actually have, including Guillermo, we'll have 3 national champions in this event from the KBF series. So it's definitely a stacked field. But Drew, man, I feel like, now's a good time, to kind of give us your kind of situation that you got going into that event.
Sure, buddy. Sure. Now to try to bring us down here, and I'll bring us up real quick. The Braves did hit a 3-run homer, so it's 3-0. So, but anyway, no, I'm unfortunately not going to be able to make the TOC. My wife and I were expecting our second child, baby Sophia. And if you guys are friends with my wife or me on Facebook, she tagged me. So you probably have seen, we've been having some complications. She's been deemed a high risk pregnancy and the baby has a little tumor on her heart. So keep us in your thoughts and prayers. It's going to be a challenging time as we won't know more. That tumor is associated, unfortunately, with a genetic disorder that 1 in 6,000, babies are affected with. So we won't know until she's born if she's in that 70 to 80% that, that tumor is associated with that disease and she has that disease or not. So there's 20 to 30% chance she doesn't. So keep us in your thoughts and prayers. Mama's, having contractions already. And we gave, she gave birth to our son, Theo, 4 weeks early already, our first son. So she's definitely more likely to give birth early again. And the due date is December 26th. So it could happen any day now, or it could be all the way. We just don't know. And I've been here kind of taking care of her and my son and playing Mr. Mom, and been at the hospital 7 out of the last 9 days. So been a lot of it's probably where I got sick, honestly, being at the hospital. But anyway, we're hanging in there, and I just want to let you guys know that I'm excited to follow along on Tourney X, and I love watching you guys when I'm not at events. So I'm going to be a fan this time, and I'm bummed to not be able to hand this off to somebody out there. But I'll be back next year, stronger than ever, I'm sure.
Well, Drew, that's obviously incredibly tough news all around. We'd love to have you at the Tournament of Champions. You definitely belong there. It won't be the same without you. We even felt that at Pickwick. You're such a great presence in our community and at every event you go to. We, like you and I talked about when we touched base last week, we're definitely going to try to figure out some ways to incorporate you. I hope that maybe you and I could have an opportunity to go live together during the event. And you will be with us. You are in our thoughts and prayers. We're all hopeful for the best positive outcomes for you and your family. And following the post from Christina, she's maintaining such an incredibly positive, perspective through this whole thing. And that's the kind of stuff that you both have to do and do for each other. And, you've got this kayak community that supports you. And if you need anything, we're all here for you, man. So we appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah.
I know that's a tough thing. Appreciate you kind of giving me that heads up. We've actually had 2 anglers, including Drew, that have had things that they've had to kind of withdraw. So we were able to fill both of those spots. So we will still have a 50 angler field. Obviously, this will kind of impact the Angler of the Year race just a little bit, but we're still going to have 50 anglers. We got to add in Charles Shelnut from Georgia. He was the bubble boy. For Eric Fletcher that, did an automatic qualifier up at La Crosse, he had a work situation that pulled him out, and he jumped in for that. And Jason Isaacs was the next bubble boy, and he was able to jump in for you, Drew. So we'll still have a 50 angler field. I'm sure now that Jason knows kind of why he stepped in, I'm sure he'll want to fish extra hard to represent for your spot. But man, just kind of want to leave it up to you guys. If you guys want to kind of say anything to Drew or each other. If Drew, you want to kind of give Ewing a pep talk, being your that you had to do it last year and what it looked like when you kind of came from behind to pull down those two giants that were sitting in a favorable spot like Ewing. Kind of let you guys. We'll just kind of chat it up for the next 10, 15 minutes, and then we'll all get back to watching this World Series game.
Oh, yeah. Well, I would talk trash, but since I'm not going to be there, I can't really do that. So like I did last year with Jody and Russ, we had a great time doing this last year. And but speaking of Jody and Russ, I mean, that's the thing. Last year, I will say this about everybody in the whole TOC, and you guys said it earlier, 5 fish a day is going to be really key. And now I'm kind of taking my analyst, like the angler hat off, and now I can be kind of analyst and a fan of this event. But I think 5 fish a day will be so huge, because if you look back at, how the fishery is fished this year, look back at the BASS event there. We had the kayak event earlier in May when 25 out of 101 caught a limit in a one-day tournament. You can do the math. If you get 5 fish a day for 3 days, you're going to be, I would say in the top 10 or 15 just on that alone. So, look for those five bites, find some places you can catch those fish. And, honestly, I love all the anglers in this whole series. I love these series. Like AJ, I'm telling you, this series is amazing. It's just something special about it with me. It just the connection with this series. I don't know. I looked the other day and I've fished 9 total. I've cashed 8 checks out of 9 events. And it's just, I love the Hobie BOS, man. It's awesome. So I can't wait to watch you guys out there duke it out. And it's gonna be fun. So but as far as how it's gonna get won, I want to hear these guys' thoughts on just some generic stuff, because I know you don't want to talk too specific. If you think it's gonna be, the fish are still gonna be shallow, if they're gonna be deeper still back in the creeks, or vegetation, electronics, what do you guys have any gut feelings on how it's gonna get won?
Yeah, we'll start with Bryan first, man. What are you thinking going to this event? Obviously being there in May, but knowing that it could just be completely different. I'm sure you're hoping that it's going to be completely different than it was. But what are your thoughts going into it, and what are you kind of planning on really, focusing on?
You lost
brush piles. I think brush piles will be key. Probably somebody with live scope will win. That's what I'm thinking. Just based
That's why I'm wearing this.
That is something that I have.
Something I have too. So
that's right.
Well, that'll be good. I'm sure Steve over there's licking his chops, thinking about getting to film you guys video game fishing out in the main lake on some brush piles. Normally, he has to get back up in the sticks to find you guys. So I'm sure he's thinking, man, we might be able to cover this one. We're gonna have. Steve's going to be out on the water doing some unique stuff to cover you guys a little bit different than we have in the past. We've got Shane Durant, who is a professional photographer that does a lot with the Elite Series and was at Pickwick. Just some amazing shots from Shane. He's going to be out there. He is, familiar with that lake. He grew up in that area. And then we're also going to be filming for Hobie Outdoor Adventures. And ironically, Cody Prather, who has fished with you guys all year, was the cameraman that got that job. So we're going to have 3 different media boats. I'm going to be operating home base at the state park, Lake Point State Park, and we're going to be doing our best to cover you guys and what's going on out there on the lake all weekend. Definitely going to be captivating to follow you guys. Ewing, what are you thinking going into this event, man? I'm sure you've heard a lot of stuff, mostly probably bad, but I think that as competitive angler, you have to kind of, filter out that stuff and focus on the right stuff so you don't go in with the wrong mindset. What are your thoughts kind of going into the lake and what you plan on really targeting? Or did Bryan just kind of hit the nail on the head there?
Honestly, wasn't really planning on fishing brush piles, but maybe I will now.
Oh, great. I shouldn't have said anything.
But what really my thought is, since it's a lake that they've sprayed the grass quite a bit, and Watts Bar is the same way. They've sprayed a lot of the grass. They do every fall. My experience with that is when they spray the grass and kill it all off, if someone finds that living grass that hasn't been killed off, I don't even know if there's any in the lake anymore. I've heard.
Not that I've seen.
Everything I've seen, it's all dead, all gone. But if someone can find it, that I think that'd be my top pick for someone winning. And then after that would probably just junk fishing. It's tough. It's in the fall, maybe throw some docks in, throw some brush piles, some, I don't know, bridges or something, just doing about all you can do and being in a good area.
Yeah. Drew, what would you do?
And I wore this for a reason. This is the Bass Tank. John Sokup won the MPFL event there, using live scope, and the experts in live scope at the Bass Tank. He helps. He's part owner in it, and that's all he was doing. We saw Dustin Connell and those guys do that at Red Crest there when it got moved. It's definitely known as a big brush pile, and if you can find some rock piles on the main lake sort of fishery now that the grass is gone. So honestly, I do have a live scope. I haven't really used it a lot, but because I'm obviously usually trying to find some skinny, shallow water. But that's what I would be trying there, because I think some of the skinnier, shallower water, river water is probably going to be a little bit more challenging with the boundaries that are in place. So that's probably what I would do, is try to use electronics to win this one. But anyway, that's I think those guys right here that we have, are a couple of the best at it. So I think that's going to be the ticket, man. I'm going to be following along. But other than that, if you can find a little bit of grass, like they were saying, maybe that's holding some heat. And as it starts to cool down, again, I don't know the temperatures there. I'm up in Ohio, so I'm a little bit, out of whack with what it's been like down there. But if it does start to get cool and fish want to stay warm, maybe that could hold some heat. And then, of course, the last thing is just try to go somewhere far away to some skinny water, unpressured water that boats can't get to, which you can still get to that stuff. It's not like, that stuff's cut off from, we just have some launch boundaries. So you can still get to that stuff, guys. So might be a little bit longer of a paddle or pedal, but it's definitely in play. But I can't talk some trash to Ewing, though. Ewing, you're like one of the best anglers out there, but man, you just got to get a light and turn it on your face for this thing, man. You're like the Dark Knight over there.
I've got a light right here. I had to grab my roommate's computer midway through when I guess it was Ryan was first on, but
we got to get you a lamp in your dorm room and get it pointed just straight at you there, buddy. We can see your smiling face.
I'm in an apartment now, but I had a lamp in the dorm, but I don't have a lamp in the apartment.
Yeah, right on, man. I'm just messing with you, but we want to see that smiling face. You're kicking butt this year, and man, congrats on all your success.
Yeah, none of us were around, and Facebook Live wasn't a thing when Drew had his first season kicking everybody's tail. But I'm sure that if it was, his background and lighting wouldn't be near as good as it is now. So you can aspire to end up looking like Drew. And if you had a wall of your checks in the Hobie Bass Open Series this year, it would definitely be looking that good. You've had a hell of a year. But we can't wrap this thing up without mentioning the rest of the anglers in this race. Steve, if you have a chance and can throw up our top 10 in our far wide angler of the year, if he's going to be able to shuffle through that. If not, I definitely got to, let everybody know kind of where this is at. Obviously Ewing's got 298.6, but when you look at second, third, fourth, and fifth, there is less than 2 points that separate those anglers. So obviously Drew is in second at 294.1. Bryan is right behind him with 294. I'm sure, I don't know that Drew realized it. Did you realize that your 1/10 of a point lead over Bryan came at the same event that he had 100.7? Like
I knew that's where my bonus came from. I do know
I
my
didn't even know that was where it was from.
Yeah, because I only had one bonus this year, and I knew it was from that big fish on day one of that event. But by the way, I had 294. I think I had 294.1 last year when I was in third place when I ended up winning AOI. So that's just a little bit of to put in context what AJ's saying. People that are right below me, I mean, if I would have had 293 or 292, I would have won. You know what I mean? So because unfortunately, Russ and Jody didn't get 5, one of the days. So I was able to beat them by, plenty of enough spots. So AJ, man, I don't know what you think, but anybody down in that top 10 has a shot at winning this thing. I mean, all of it. If they win the thing, you guys got to perform, you two here and obviously, but it's anybody's ball game. So I can't wait to watch and see how it all shakes out. It's going to be a grueling 3-day event.
Yeah, I think that definitely we've got, when you look at Guillermo in fourth place, he's just 1 point back from you two. And that's a really easy to make up in a 2-point decrement event. And then I think one of the sleepers going to this event, and it's crazy to call Russ Snyder's a sleeper. Let's be real about that. He won Lake Eufaula bass earlier this year.
Yep.
He's sitting at 292.3. He is an incredible angler coming in. He got the win at Broken Bow earlier this year, and has just had a steady season all year. I think Russ is definitely one of those guys that you guys will see show out. I think he's had a bad taste in his mouth after the event last year, and he has put himself in a position to. And I think really Drew's point, anybody in the top 10 has an opportunity to definitely do some stuff. Jay Wallen is had a strong end of the season. Cody Milton's riding some big momentum, is always a threat. Jordan Marshall, same thing. Bryan Delahunty, for those that aren't as familiar with Bryan, he does a lot of work in this series. He's had a tremendous season, quite a few top 10s to have that score, and actually lives down in Alabama now. So I know prior to the Off Limits was learning the lake a little bit. And then right behind him, Adam Reiser, who is, for my money, he's one of the best deep water anglers, offshore anglers that I've competed against in kayak fishing. So he is incredibly good on electronics. I know that he is, competing out of a Hobie this year, which in the past he did a lot of his damage in a paddle kayak. Obviously, he was still winning money in a paddle kayak, but being able to hold position, especially when you're fishing deep water fish on brush piles, he's definitely and has expressed that advantage to me many times. So everybody in that top 10, when you look at the way it played out last year, Drew won, he was in third. Jordan Marshall got second. I think he was like 7th or something going into it. Ron Champion got third. I think he was 8th or 9th. Christine got 4th. She was in that 10 range. So people that weren't really expecting it fished really good and ended up qualifying for the Worlds, going home with an extra check and making it happen. I know that is not what you two want to hear. You are not the guys that are super excited about me pumping up the rest of the field, but I think you guys know exactly who's behind you and what you guys have to do. You've done it all year. You've been very consistent. You've done it in the states that you reside in. You've done it in states 10 hours away. You guys have done the work all year, and you're going to have one more opportunity to close out this season. And we're going to be excited to see how it plays out. I'm going to give, you all kind of an each opportunity for a closing remark. And then we're going to just get off of here and watch the rest of this World Series and look forward to catching up with everybody next week when we come back live from Eufaula. Drew, you want to say anything before we get out of here?
Yeah, just, thanks again for having me. And I can't wait to watch, how it all shakes out. And, I'm going to watch the World Series. I'm excited the Braves have a 3-0 lead. I grew up in Atlanta area, so definitely pulling for them. But, yeah, guys, I mean, I don't know what to say. The names on that list, I'm a fan of the sport as much as I am, an angler, and very competitive. My goal was to repeat. And obviously there are more important things in life than fishing. And that's shown true here with my situation. So, I've put this behind me a long time ago. I haven't thought about the TOC or trying to compete for this. At the moment, I could tell my wife needed me here and was going through what we're going through together. I had to be here. So anyway, I'm excited. You guys go get them. Go catch 5 a day. Find different locations. And if you're going to do a milk run with electronics, you better know this, that those guys in bass boats have 500 brush piles marked. And they run to all that in a bass boat, and they spend a couple minutes at each one, 5 minutes. So how can you accomplish that in a kayak? Be thinking about that. You guys that are using electronics, it's not going to be an easy task. So just because brush pile is won in bass boats, it's not the same game. So can't wait to watch it all shake out. Thank you guys. AJ, amazing season. Steve, entire Hobie staff, great job with everything. I can't wait to hear the schedule when you guys announce that at the I guess the TOC or whenever that's announced, the rest of the schedule, and be back at it next year. So
awesome, Drew. We'll be following you and keeping up with everything. And so we're going to release the rest of the schedule, I think Monday of next week, and then the TOC for 22 at the TOC next year. Bryan, you got anything to close us out?
We all keep saying it's going to be tough, but you never know. I've gone into events where you think, oh, yeah, if you just get a limit, both days, whatever, you'll be good. And then, people just end up catching 90-inch limits every day or whatever. I don't know if that's going to happen this time, but you never know. So I think everyone needs to be prepared for that.
I think that everybody coming into that event almost expects somebody to do it because, that's just what some of the anglers in this field do on any body of water at any time of year, no matter how tough it is. So we're looking forward to that, man. Safe travels in from Texas, and appreciate you spending the night with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Ewing, you got anything to wrap us up?
I mean, I was just, Drew, he really hit the nail on the head with his, but just a shame that he can't make it. Really wish you could be there, but got to take care of family first, and hope you get another opportunity next year.
Thanks, man. Appreciate that. And like you said, AJ, maybe you can stream me in and I can virtually hand it off or something.
We'll definitely be in touch that weekend, Drew, for sure.
By the way, this is an amazing trophy. You guys, look at this. Hobie did an amazing job with this thing. I don't know who had make it, but I'm sure the other one will be the same thing probably, but it's awesome. So great job.
Yeah, shout out to Bass Trophies Online. They do a lot for us and other kayak groups. Ross Myers out of Florida actually still making trophies right now, recovering from a stroke. So he is a great asset to our sport and other bass boat entities that utilize his art to do that. So shout out to Ross. Shout out to you three. Drew, we're going to miss you, but we'll be following. And can't wait to continue to feed you guys information for next season and to get this party known as the Tournament of Champions underway. We got to pay out $86,000 next Sunday, and we are excited to see how that shakes out. So thank you guys for the time. Steve, thank you for staying up past your bedtime and sacrificing World Series time to do this with us tonight. We always appreciate you behind the scenes. Thank everybody at Hobie, all our amazing sponsors. It's been a tremendous season. All the support from everybody back home. We've got another, 11, 12 days of this to wrap up an incredible 21 season and crown a few more champions and hold up some really big checks. Thank you guys. Have a great night, and we'll catch you next time.
The new Tatula 100. This reel is absolutely amazing.
Here it is, the new Tatula 100. We're talking a reinforced brass gear that makes it even stronger than the previous Tatula. It's amazing.
That is awesome. Unbelievable reel, ultra smooth, super durable, super lightweight, crisp. Now I'll be able to have one reel across the board. I'm excited about that. Plus, the thing looks bitchin'.